What up? This is Mason Musso from the band Metro Station, and you're now listening and watching the Burn Down podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Today's episode of the Burn Down, we have the lead singer to a very popular band. You probably have heard of them. Metro Station had the hit song Shake It, number 3 in the United States, number 1 in Australia. Now he's an independent musician, singer, songwriter. That man is Mason Musso. Mason, thank you very much for joining us here on the Burn Down.
What's going on, brother?
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having me on.
Now, hopefully I said it right. Is it Musso or Musso or
Musso?
Musso. Okay.
Yeah. People have been pronouncing it all kinds of different ways my whole life. So it doesn't...
I mean, I feel like it's not really hard to mess up. I mean, I didn't even know who you are. I was like, it's Musso. And then I Googled you. I was like, yeah, Musso. That's easy. It's not like my last name. Joseph
well, are you Italian?
I am, but my last name is not Italian.
So you wouldn't mess it up.
No.
No.
I'm German, so I would.
Okay. My family, they're all like my great-grandfather. They all came from Sicily.
Gotcha. Same.
Sicily.
Yeah, it's in the vowel, right? So he's a good guy. He's one of us.
Before like World War II, they came over here. They landed in in New York, and then they started They went down and started a produce business in Texas.
Oh, nice.
Italians getting involved in produce.
Where in Texas?
Food. That's what we know. Food.
All right.
Where in Texas they go down to?
Dallas.
Okay. My wife's from Austin, Texas. So.
Okay, cool. My cousin. Her and her husband own a vineyard an hour outside of Austin, a town called Fredericksburg. It's like basically the Napa of Texas. And Senior Vineyards, if you're ever over there.
I know exactly where Fredericksburg is.
Oh, my cousins work there. My dad's over there, so we kind of run the joint.
What's it called?
It's a beautiful Senior Vineyards, Signor Vineyards. It's a beautiful spot right in Fredericksburg, Texas.
I'm gonna write it down because I go down to Texas frequently. So
get involved. So
next time you're there,
is your family still involved in the produce business, in the food business?
No, they sold it a while back. My grandfather took it over from my grandmother's dad, who ran it, and then they sold the business after my great grandfather passed away.
And it's a pretty funny story. So before we get into it, how we got connected, because you had to follow me on Instagram, and I saw you were verified. I was like, oh, that's cool.
He's got the check mark.
Yeah, he's got the check mark. You got to be somebody interesting. So I couldn't pick up who it was. I was like, oh, cool, this guy, following back this and that. And then I noticed you started commenting on a lot of the cigar videos. And I was like, this guy, he's got to be a cigar guy, obviously. And then I just reached out to you. I was like, without even really knowing, I was like, he's got to be interesting. He's got to be somebody. Let me do some research. And I was like, oh, brother of Hannah Montana. He joined the band, this and that. His brother was in Hannah Montana's show. So once we had you on, I was like, I told my wife, and I was like, yeah, I'm getting this guy Mason Musso on. He's part of this band, Metro. She's like, Eric, you know who that is, right? I'm like, no. I'm like, who? He goes, you know the song Shake, Shake? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, that's him. I'm like, no fucking way.
That's hilarious.
It blew my mind. I was like, bah. I was like, duh.
And it's funny because when he told me, so my wife growing, like, she was a huge Hannah Montana fan, right? So when I told her the whole story, she goes, does he know Miley Cyrus? Does he know? I was like, I'm assuming he probably does. I'm like, his other band member is Miley's brother. So I was like, I'm assuming. It's like, I'm assuming they've probably met. She goes, oh my God. Oh, she's like freaking.
Because as soon as she said that, I'm like, it instantly brought me back. Because that song came out, like 2007, right?
Yeah, the first record came out in 2007. And I mean, we started getting like traction on MySpace in like 2006. It's kind of when everything started. We got signed in 2007, released the record in 2007, and then Shake It was probably on the radio 9, 10 is probably like the peak of when, a lot of that was popping off.
It was everywhere. Yeah. It was like one of those songs that like any radio station you would go to, it was like you go to 106.1, it was on. You go to 105.1, it was on. And I was like,
yeah.
Well, we actually, we were listening to a lot of your songs prior to this. And we were, watching some of the interviews and kind of prepping, and we noticed on Spotify the song Shake It was played over 200 million times.
230 million.
Crazy.
230 million. And now I'm going to
Crazy.
add to this. Spotify, that song came out, like you said, 2007.
Right.
I don't think Spotify was around 2007.
None of them were around.
Of course not. It was
None
MySpace.
of them were around.
So, think about it came out in 2007. Spotify came around, probably in the last, 10 years maybe? So those first 5 years didn't have anything. And now Spotify comes out, and now it still has 230 million.
And that's just Spotify.
And it's just Spotify.
Now, are you collecting some royalties? Are you getting some cash from all those streams? And
Of course.
Stuff? How does that? Yeah, I'm always curious how that works because I always hear the record industry. Does the artist dirty? They only collect a small percentage, this and that. So I'm always curious. So
people get mad. Some people, there is obviously it's a business just like anything else, and there are ways, you're going to have to sign contracts for them to want to do a deal with you. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know, this idea that it's mean or it's bad or the music industry is, there's definitely some stuff that's, not great, but at the same time, it's like they bring you to a place where they can promote you. Mm-hmm. And they're also machines, right? A label is a machine. It doesn't have a soul. It's not a person you can really hate or anything. It's there to make money. And so I don't know. I know some people, are like very punk rock about it. Like, oh, fuck all the labels and everything. But, I don't really, I don't know. I've never really been like that.
You don't have a bad experience.
No, but to your point is the label's got to make money.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they're not going to sign somebody if they're not going to make money off of them. Like you said, at the end of the day, whoever owns the label and whoever works at the label, they need to pay their bills too. Yeah. But I think, it's good to see that because I've heard that in some cases where you get signed to a label and, let's call it, lack of a better term, you're young and dumb and you don't know any better and
can totally happen.
And you get the shit. Happen. Yeah, right. You get the short end of the stick, right? And later on, you're like, shit, I should have been making royalties, and they kind of screw you, and they get 90%, you get 10%, right? But it sounds like in your case, that's not.
Mostly from the managers. Right. It's not even the labels. It's the managers, dude.
That's why they got lawyers,
and
right?
Not all, but
So we're smoking blueprints here. Obviously, our cigar. Yes. We sent you some blueprints. We wanted you to smoke them. Obviously, you got to preserve the vocals. So you're doing a show. You told us beforehand this weekend. So you won't be smoking today, but you did smoke a blueprint yesterday. So I'm curious to see your thoughts on the cigar.
Unless you want to drop an octave on your.
No, it does. I usually do one a day, and I'll smoke it at night. Usually with a. Usually with the bourbon. I'm not really into Scotch. I have some of my bourbons as well. If you guys wanted to see what I usually pair up.
Absolutely. That's cigars. What we're pairing it with.
Or a good beer. I like a good beer with a cigar as well. But yes, I had one of your blueprints last night, and it was delicious. And here's some of I wrote some notes down.
Oh, he's coming prepared. I love this. This is a first. This is actually a first.
All positive.
This is a first. We haven't had somebody say,
if there's any negative, please. We'd love to.
No negative. There really wasn't. I was very impressed.
Thank you.
So a lot of spice, which I like. I like the spice because I want to kind of feel it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I got into cigars because I was a cigarette smoker for years and years and years and years and years. From like 16 to, I guess I quit smoking cigarettes at like 25. And I just went into cigars, and that kind of like helped me, quit smoking cigarettes. So for me, I like to feel it. And I felt like the y'all cigar was powerful. It was very powerful. I got lots of hints of licorice, which I really liked. You guys ever taste that in the cigar?
Liquor? I've not in our cigar, but that's
like
interesting.
No?
It's interesting because
everyone's palate's different.
Yeah, everybody's palate's different. So, for instance, I might not pick up licorice in our cigar, but you do. That's great.
Greek alcohol.
Yeah,
Uzo or whatever it is.
Yeah,
kind of like little hints of that.
Okay, there. Almost like a sambuca.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And then towards the end, I kind of got like a very meaty quality, like bacon burn-ins. And a little bit of like sweetness.
Bro,
so
that's pretty extensive.
That's my kind of stuff. So I like that. I really enjoyed it. It was big.
I love that. I would actually, I would agree. The meatiness, I labeled it as like a chewiness, almost, right? Like you got, like you said, burnt ends. When you're chewing on burnt ends, you can kind of feel it. Almost like you ever have a Coke, and you know how the Coke kind of coats your mouth, and it's almost like you can get the chewiness. Same thing with like a really bold wine.
You know what?
It coats your mouth, and you can really feel it.
That's interesting.
I get this. Yeah,
because sometimes you'll have one of those cigars that's very like wispy. Is that even a word? I think that's a word. Wispy. Like the smoke is very.
It is now.
Light. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's very light, and you're just kind of not really.
Yeah, like a wisp. Like you're wisping pancakes.
That's a wisp.
Yeah, you're just like you're not feeling like you're not getting anything out of it. But this, like, a lot of smoke, and you're just like, okay.
I find that with
it burned really well.
I find that with Cubans.
Okay.
A lot of Cubans I find are very light, and
They're not powerful.
I don't really get a whole lot. Some Cubans I do. I'm not gonna lie. Some Cubans I had are absolutely fantastic, but some other Cubans, I feel like I don't get much out of it. Like you said, you like the spice, so you probably tend to lean towards Nicaraguan, which our cigar has Nicaraguan. Right.
I love a good Nicaraguan. Yeah.
And our cigar has Nicaraguan fillers, or has a Nicaraguan filler. But I find with the Cubans, it's kind of like that wispy.
I always find the Cubans like very earthy and like kind of like a Dominican, where it's not always heavy. It's kind of light and kind of just cool.
I think you have to go with the Cuban, sadly, and I like cheaper smokes. I totally think you don't need to spend a bunch of money to get a good smoking experience. But if you spend the money on like the higher end Cubans, I feel like you kind of get it's not. Is it worth it? I don't know. It's worth it. Like, I mean, my spot I go to. Not that they sell Cubans, because they absolutely do not. But sometimes you'll find, if you find, Cohibas and stuff, I mean, it's like $64 for Robusto.
Yeah.
The prices have gone up crazy. It's just like, it's not really worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, California,
they're delicious.
New York suck with prices.
They're delicious, but it's not really worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm with you, is I find, because I've had cigars that, $100 cigars, $200 cigars, and they're fantastic, right?
Yeah.
But for the same $200, I can go get, here in New York, a regular Padron, like 1964, is probably like $30. Yeah. So I can take the same $200 and get 6 Padrones that are higher end sticks. Padrones are not cheap. They're $30. That's more on the higher end. Mm-hmm. I can get 6, 7 of those for the same price as the one $200 cigar. I mean, I'm going to go with the 6. And then if you go take a step down and get like a $10 stick, I can get 20 $10 sticks for the price of one.
I like an abundance.
You can get you get a box.
I get a whole. You get our box. You get our box for $200. So
easily.
There you go.
All right.
But I do have some cigars, some of my prized possessions that I can show you guys here in a little bit. That I do think when it comes to Cubans or Dominicans and stuff like that, if you do spend the money, you're going to get a great smoking experience. Is it always worth it? No, but if you have the cash and you love cigars, then
it's worth
sometimes it can be worth it.
Are you rocking a Death Row t-shirt?
Yeah.
I respect that. I love that.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Now, Snoop Dogg actually just bought Death Row Records. Fun fact.
I love how you recognize that. I didn't pick that up, but because now I can. Yeah. Now that you said it, and I can recognize the shirt.
Death Row.
Over here in LA, I'm actually a Texan. I'm from Texas, but I'm over here in LA, so I rep. I rep
the LA culture, baby.
Yeah. Well, see, he's got the Death Row to rep the LA, but then he also has the cross hanging from him to rep Texans. So okay,
little mosh posh up it all.
Conflicting,
right?
Yeah, very conflicting. But
I love it, bro.
We're all about that over here on the West Coast.
Yeah,
very interesting people.
The conflicting ideologies. It's like you're a walking contradiction.
It's a sunny place for shady people.
There you go. I like
that.
All right. So obviously, right, we got to talk about Metro Station. Okay.
Sure.
I mean, we're not going to bring on Mason Musso and then not talk about Metro Station.
Come on, okay. I want to hear about Shake, baby. Come on.
All right. So tell us, bring us all the way back. How did you get into, the band called Metro? Was it always called Metro Station? Was it called something else? How did you come up with the name? How did you meet the guys? Like, give us the beginnings of Metro Station.
Okay. So I moved here. Is my camera kind of blurry?
No, you're good, brother.
No, you're good.
No? Okay. I moved here when I was like 12, my little brothers were into acting. My parents did theater, and so they started trying to get my little brothers booked in commercials and stuff around Texas. My little brother, he booked a bunch of different stuff, but when he booked a show on Disney, Hannah Montana, my family moved out here. So my brother was working on the set of Hannah Montana, and one day my mom came to me and she was like, "Hey, the other girl on the show, she has an older brother who's exactly your age, and me and the moms were talking. They're like, hey, you have a son that's 15, I have a son that's 15. They should get up and hang out, or get together and hang out." And so that's how I met Trace. I met him. We decided to hang out one day, and then from there, we literally just started making music on GarageBand. And we started posting it on MySpace, and and then we met the keyboardist and the drummer, and that's when we were like, okay, we need to figure out a band name. And one day I was driving around Hollywood over here, and I was like, oh, the Metro Station. I thought that was a good name, which is actually difficult to get because there's a lot of the Metro stations are government. So like even our website is Metro Station Music, because everything, it's all like government stuff, Metro stations. So you were driving around and just saw you're like, that works, and you brought it back to your band. Because we're throwing around different ideas, and it's so difficult to come up. I'm sure it was hard to come up with y'all's podcast name. Naming anything because it kind of sounds lame at first. Yeah. Kind of sounds lame, and then you're like, oh, maybe
Bro, my first Instagram name was obviously Brother Cigar, but my first name was Bro Smoke, and I was like, oh, that's a good name, and then I'm like, that's so whack. It's such a terrible name, but It's hard. It almost took us 6 months to come up with the name for the blueprint. The burn down kind of took us not so long. I'm a big person with what do you call them? Acronyms. So the burn down podcast we came up because BDP. I was like, what's something cool people can say like BDP? Like I like acronyms like TLC or TNT or whatever.
Sure.
And I'm Brother Cigar. He's Dapper Cigar. So I was like, all right, BD and a podcast, BDP. What can we do with cigars? And you burn a cigar, and you burn a cigar down, and it's the burn down. We're talking about different shit. Burn down podcast it is.
It's smart, and I really like the name of the cigar, the Blueprint. I think that's really cool.
Thank you.
And this you kind of have the blue with it. A lot of that stuff, obviously it doesn't matter about a cigar, but I think for me, I'm all about the visual. So I like a good logo and a good color.
Something that pops.
Because most people who walk in, to buy a cigar, they don't know anything about a cigar. So they see the ones with like the little footband. They're like, that looks great. I'm going to take that. That's beautiful.
Exactly.
It looks fancy.
Yeah.
So they're going to do it. I think all that stuff is, you kind of, a lot of cigar people might push that away, but some people aren't really super. They don't know anything about cigars, so little things like that catch their eye.
And I mean, you smoke with your eyes first, right?
Yes.
So when you walk into a cigar lounge, the first thing you do is you look around for what you're going to smoke. So we decided, hey, every cigar, like majority of cigars have just regular labels. Like we have a wall right here that's got all different cigar boxes, and you look up, and most of them have like the wood colors, like the browns and the beiges, and there's dark browns, there's blacks. So I go there, there's some yellows. So I go, what's gonna pop? Like when you walk in, you want something that just bangs. So if you have our cigar, the Blueprint, that's got a blue label, a blue box, and it's up against all the other ones, your eyes are instantly gonna go to blue first.
That's how I picked cigars when I first started. I just picked cigars based on how they looked. My whole life. I liked football teams based on their colors. I like Pokemon based on how they looked. I visual for everything. So I was like, when I create a cigar, it's got to be cool to look at.
There's a whole science behind it too. 100%. even with food, apparently, with like, I don't know, McDonald's and stuff, yellow apparently, catches people's eye, obviously.
Yep.
And red is kind of a more, the Romans used it, right? So it's got to have something to do with war or something like that. So I think colors are.
There's a psychological aspect.
Yes,
100%. 100%.
I mean, that's why if you look at all of the technology companies out there, they're all neutral colors like grays, and like look at Apple, Microsoft, IBM, Tesla. Yeah. They're all gray.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just neutral stuff. And then if you look at except for Google, who uses every color of the rainbow.
And symbols are really important too. I mean, Apple's logo is so symbolic. You know, the bite out of the apple.
Yeah.
You know, straight out of the Bible. You know, so all the symbols and stuff are very important.
That's actually very interesting that you brought that up, because I saw a meme the other day that said that I guess you call it a meme, but it just was a picture of Adam and Eve, and they were saying, isn't it funny how like the first, I guess it's not really the first sin, right? Because the first sin would be when Cain murdered Abel, but
no, it'd be the first.
I guess it'd be the first sin.
They were before Cain. Yeah,
yeah, it was the first thing. They said, "Don't do this," and they did it, right? And it's you take a bite out of the apple. So now that was the toxic apple, right? Don't take this here. And now you have Apple Company, and the biggest symbol, and everybody has a phone. Don't do that, and they all have thing that is like the most toxic in your life is your cell phone.
That's it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I saw that and I thought it was pretty interesting. So
it's weird.
Were you when you were starting your band, were you still in high school, or were you just finished high school?
I actually,
or when you blew up, I should say.
I left Texas middle of 10th grade. Went to town. I grew up in a town called Rockwall, Texas, right outside of Dallas, like 25 minutes outside of Dallas, and left middle of 10th grade to finish up homeschool because I came to California. So when I came to California, my parents were like, we can put you in a new school, with a bunch of kids you don't know, and I was like, I definitely don't want to do that because, that sounds, and I already had some friends out here. So I was like, I'll just homeschool.
Yeah. Cause Justin and I were talking like, man, if he was still in high school and he had a freaking huge blockbuster.
Yeah. I was going to ask you.
I pretty much was. I mean, I was 18.
So you finished high school at 18?
I mean, I finished high school at like 17.
Okay.
But I kind of didn't really.
Yeah.
Kind of.
But yeah. We put that one under the table, right? But you were hanging out with people in high school.
Because I had to get on the road.
Yeah.
Right.
On the road, right? So I was like, but anyway, when my record was coming out, all my friends were, graduating high school,
So how was it like having that like level of the level of fame at such a young age? Like, did you feel like you were on top of the world? Like, did you have like no control of what you were doing? Like, how was that whole experience being so young?
It's a lot. I definitely felt like, it can be abused, like when you get a lot of money at that young of an age, it's kind of like everyone wants to be your friend. And, it's definitely not bad. Cause I know a lot of people have that mentality of like, Hollywood kids, and they get a bunch of money and then, something horrible happens to them. But, that wasn't really me. I'll definitely tell you, after a while you start realizing, these people are only really hanging out with me because I like, paid for everything.
Did you understand or like weed out that mentality pretty early? Like, oh, these people are just with me because they want to party and I have money. Like, they're not really here for me. Did you know that at a young age, or it kind of took a little bit to kind of figure out?
No, it took a little bit of time.
Yeah.
It took a little bit of time.
Yeah, because I'm sure, like, you have a blow up, a huge record. The record label's got to give you a bunch of money to shoot music videos and stuff like that.
And then everybody starts saying, "Oh yeah,
I always believed.
I always believed it. Yeah, okay.
I always knew it. I always knew you were the new man. Of course.
Yeah. So how did you?
I took care of a lot of people too. When people needed stuff, I did.
As any good person would.
Well, I try to be, but it's like
can't please everybody, right?
You can't please everybody, and a lot of those people that I think, as you get older, my friends become fewer and fewer. Like my real friends. I have a lot of friends, but like real friends, it becomes fewer and fewer because, it's a dog eat dog world out there, man.
Listen, I 100% agree with that because I've always said that, like, I'd rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like as you get older, and we're all victims to this, is you want to have, I mean, that's what social media is all about. You want the approval of many, and you just want likes and likes and likes and people to approve what I do, and you want more friends and more friends and more friends, and you think that makes you almost think that it makes you a better person. Like, the more friends I have, the more validated I am, the more secure. But it's the older you get, you realize, no, it's the less friends I want 4 people that if shit hits the fan, I can call them and they'll be there, as opposed to 100 people that are only around when they need something from me and not vice versa. So it's like as you get older, it just gets your circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
Quality over quantity.
Yes, 100%.
Attaboy. That's exactly
100%.
it. It's like going back to buying 1 Cuban or fucking 10 Padrones.
Well, then we're kind of like,
At least in my case, I'd still buy fucking 10 Padrones over a Cuban. But
right,
anyway,
yeah, me too.
You know what I'm saying?
Me too.
But all right, so
because that's still quality. That's damn
I was
good
just gonna say
quality.
that's 10 quality over.
yeah, well, yeah, I guess
One-
that's, I guess that's an like what is that? An oxymoron almost type of thing.
So to go back on the bourbons, we're actually drinking Eagle Rare tonight.
Let me go grab the stuff I usually.
Yeah,
I'll be right back.
Let's take
One
a
second.
gander. Yeah, I guess would that be an oxymoron? Right? Kind of that.
What?
Quality over quantity, but the quantity is still quality.
I don't know. Sounds like a bumper sticker to me.
Yeah, that's funny. That's like a bumper
Okay, so
sticker.
he's got a couple of bottles here. Okay.
So I'll show you my bourbons. Well, one's a whiskey, but I'll show you my bourbons and whiskey first.
Okay.
I can't really do Scotch, but I do like I like bourbons
Same.
and I like whiskeys and I like a good beer. And sometimes I'll drink wine. Being Italian, I like a good Bordeaux, but it's usually bourbon. So the new Jack Daniel's Bonded.
I've seen that.
You guys had it won whiskey of the year for
That's where I saw it.
is
Yeah.
It's whiskey. I forget which one. It's the one that Cigar Aficionado owns.
Yeah. I just
Whiskey
saw,
enthusiast or whiskey?
Is it something like that?
I did see that bourbon or whiskey just won that for
It's-
2022.
It's like around 30. It's like 30 something bucks here. Really, really good, delicious.
That's Jack Daniel's Bonded. Is that what it
Bonded,
said?
yeah. So it's higher alcohol, deeper, darker, flavor. It's quite good.
Nice.
This one, George Dickel, the spring of 2007 one. This one won whiskey of the year, I think, in like 16 or 17.
Huh.
I haven't had. So I'm going to write that one down. George
I
Dickel.
never even heard of that.
Yeah, this one's really good too. It's dark. It's like
That's fine with me.
How do you
a lot
find
of nuts
your
like
bourbons?
peanuts.
How do you find like the
A lot
bourbons?
of, I like when I'm looking for cigars, I do pick up a Cigar Aficionado, or I do pick up I think it's Whiskey Enthusiast.
Okay.
I think that's
I think
what
that's
it's
it.
called. So
I
it's
like
George
checking out
Dickel
that.
bourbon, huh?
Yep, George Dickel bourbon. Bottle. I'm sorry, this is a George Dickel Tennessee Bottle and Bond whiskey, so it's not a bourbon, it's a whiskey.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a Tennessee whiskey, so it's all right. Tennessee whiskey, so it's not bourbon.
I like that name. That's a funky little name.
Like, it reminds me of that commercial with Dickens cider. Did you ever see that
yeah.
commercial? Have you ever seen that
Yeah.
commercial?
I don't know if that was a real commercial.
I don't know if it was a real commercial, but somebody came up with Dickens cider and it said, you got to start your morning with Dickens cider. And
It was a joke. He would go around to guys, girls, and they're like, "Oh, I love having a nice Dickens cider." I'm like, "Oh my god, it's hilarious."
That's hilarious. That's
Yeah.
funny.
Like, I can't go out today without having a Dickens cider.
So what are the other ones? So you got the Jack
This
Daniels.
is my last one. This one is super. This brand is hard to find. So the Carters. This is an old Carter. So this is a bourbon. They used to make wine, and now they're into whiskeys and bourbons. And this is a bourbon bottled in Kentucky. And these are like on the pricier side of bourbons.
Old Carter. I'm writing these down.
Try to find this brand, Old Carter. Amazing stuff. If you like whiskeys and bourbons, they do really great work.
Yeah,
and
right.
Ryes, they do Ryes as well.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
but
rye
those
tends
are like
to be a
the
little bit
three.
sweeter too.
So
Rye sweet, yeah.
So are you smoking a cigar and having a glass of bourbon every day? Is that what you said? Almost every day?
At night, that's probably my go-to. Some nights I don't get to, but that's
try to.
That's my way to relax. Really, tried a lot of other stuff, and that didn't really. That doesn't.
Yeah,
really
I was going to be my
relax.
next question. Being like,
Yeah.
young kid, I'm sure there's a lot of
Yeah.
vices being out in Hollywood and LA. I'm sure you're going to a bunch of different parties, probably,
Yeah.
seeing people do a lot of different things. Were those vices like intriguing for you, or kind of like, nah? Like, how did you deal with that being in the entertainment?
Very, very, very intriguing.
Yeah.
Sadly, but I got to a point where I just I don't know, like the conversations were meaningless. A lot of the drugs culture, especially out here, it just gets to a point where it's like that's all people want to do. There's no really good discussions. There's no great conversations, And a lot of what I've experienced within the cigar community is, they can, you can have just a normal guy's conversation. And then at the same time, you have like, people who are, philosophical poets, people who are, you can have really in-depth conversations too. So it's not, it's definitely can feel like some sort of a boys club at times. Not that that's a bad thing. That's a good thing, I think, in today's day and age.
No doubt.
But one of my friends, or a guy I follow on Twitter, he said someone was pointing out that, cigars nowadays, they always, especially here in Hollywood, they picture the cigar smoker as always a villain. They paint the cigar smoker as like the bad, evil business type, or the, horrible, villain or whatever. And this guy, Mike Cernovich, who I follow, he was like, he said on Twitter, tobacco is spiritual. It was used in shamanic practices. Cigars are one of the few overt acts of resistance a man can make today. And I thought that's
powerful stuff.
That was really cool. Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
And who said that? Who's that?
It is Mike Cernovich. If you follow him on Twitter,
and
super smart guy.
And who is he? What does he do?
I think he does kind of political stuff, and he kind of is just kind of like a culture guy. He's just
Mike Cernovich.
That's and
give him a follow.
And that's again, that's something we always preach about, especially with cigars and on the burn down. It's why we have this podcast. It's about bringing people together over cigar, because you can be a construction worker, you can be in a band, you can be a CFO, and no matter what you do in life, you brings it back as a cigar. You can have a conversation no matter what. You guys can talk about how your day was. You can talk about cigars. You can talk about the football game, and there's really no animosity. There's really usually a judge-free zone when you're smoking a cigar in a cigar lounge. And like I always say, I don't want it to be, but you could probably have political debates in a cigar lounge.
Yeah.
That's how calm and back and forth it could be.
And I love how what you had said, that the quality of conversation in those different realms, like, okay, the drug scene, right? You said that just the quality of conversations in the drug scene was just not there. People were just there to do drugs, and then that was it, right? But the quality of conversation that you have in the cigar scene is on a totally different level. And you said it doesn't matter. You can have conversations about anything over a cigar, but like you had said before, you'd rather have quality over quantity, right? So I can, be in that scene over here and have a million conversations, but none of them mean anything, and it's just crap, and you're all just hanging out just to do the act of whatever the drug is. Versus over here, I can have one cigar a week at a cigar lounge, but the conversation every time I'm there, the quality is just so it's rich conversation, and that's what we love about the cigar world.
Yeah. And I think it's not about, it's you're not getting loaded by smoking a cigar.
Right.
And no bad, towards anyone that has different vices that, kind of chills them out more or whatever, whether whatever you're doing. But, with a cigar, you're not getting loaded. It's just, your mind is clear, and maybe even more clear. You're even more, focused. I feel like I am sometimes. I come up with great ideas. I think they're great. They might be shit. I don't know. But, yeah, it's very therapeutic. It's you're kind of what Mike Cernovich was saying. I mean, like especially in the Americas, a lot of the Indians were using it as a very spiritual, connecting to it's a very spiritual thing. So
yeah, 100%. And I think that
it's awesome.
And I think like I've said it too, where and I don't think I've ever heard this before. I think I've come up with this myself. I might want to trademark it. I don't know. It sounds pretty good to me, but I've always said that a cigar turns cloudy thoughts into clouds of smoke. And it's like you had said, you even think of it, I think, clearer after I have a cigar. Because, after the stressful day, you have all these things going on, blah, blah, and you come home and it's your way to unwind. So your mind is going a million miles a minute, but you can sit down and have a cigar, and all of that gets kind of, you can calm down and it gets relaxed, and you can clear out that fogginess and come up with great ideas. You can just, if you don't want to think about it, you can just relax, put on some tunes and just chill. I've said that cigars are a way to turn your cloudy thoughts into clouds of smoke.
Yeah, it's pretty
I
wild.
love that. That's great.
Being involved with cigars for the last, 5, 6, 7 or so years, my friends over time have gotten more intrigued with cigars, and they'll come to me and they'll be like, dude, I wish I smoked cigars earlier. Like, I love smoking cigars. I get to just chill, relax. I get to, like, decompress. I'm at the end of my day. Like, I could just be one with my thoughts. Like, I wish I did this sooner. Thank God I'm friends with you. And I'm like, come on, man, join the train. That's what it's all about. That's why we're doing something with Mason Musso, because we may not have much in common, but we do like cigars, and that's why we're here, baby.
That's what I try to tell, like, some of my friends that are still smoking cigarettes. Like, nothing against it. I love tobacco too. Like, it's great. But I think one of you guys said this the other day on Instagram or something. It's like, cigarettes are like nervous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, my friend comes over and he has to come outside, every 10 minutes or so. I might have 2 cigars a day, but I'll usually just have one, and I'll have it at night.
Yeah.
After my day is done, everything's done. But, you're having to run outside to smoke a cigarette. I was that person too, but I think that's why I try to get my cigarette friends into cigars, because it's like, look how, much bigger the world is of tobacco. Look at, you can find out where your tobacco leaf is coming from, how it was aged, the quality of it, you can, and it's so much more beautiful than buying the same Marble Lights every fucking day.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
I mean?
And what a lot of people, and you can attest to this too, is because you smoked both. But what we try to tell people is that cigarettes actually only contain less than 5% tobacco. Everything else is
That's crazy.
Just additives, right?
That's crazy.
Cigars are what you actually smoke. Now, cigars have 2 ingredients, technically. They have tobacco, which is what you actually smoke. It's 100% tobacco. Mm-hmm. But then they also use vegetable glue, and vegetable glue is just to hold the label together, right? But you don't actually smoke this. You take this off. So what you actually smoke is 100% tobacco. And to your point is, if somebody's a cigarette smoker and they need their fix, they don't give a shit what type of cigarette it is. Can I bum a smoke? And they don't. You could give them Marlboro Reds. You can give them Menthol Lights. You can
Virginia
give them,
Slims.
It doesn't even fucking matter what it is. If you have one, they're going to be happy with it. But a cigar smoker, it's like, hey, can I get a cigar? And they say, oh, I have a Swisher Sweet. You're like, nah, man. Like, what do you? And it may not. It's more. There's more.
You're not
to
fiending.
It. Yeah, there's so much more.
There's thousands and thousands of chemicals in a cigarette.
Yeah,
and I always say what you were saying. When you smoke a cigarette, it's like I gotta, anxiety based. Like I gotta get in. I gotta suck this bad boy down and get back to what I'm doing. Pause. And and where a cigar, you're kind of just chilling. Like, I'm chilling, man. Not caring the world. I'm just hanging out, trying to enjoy life.
Yep.
Like, there's nothing can bother me right now.
So do you? Yeah. So you said that you got into cigars after quitting cigarettes. You wanted to quit cigarettes, and that was like your way to quit cigarettes, which is fantastic because we've done an episode. I don't know if you'll take a look at it about if cigars are healthy for you, and we've actually done multiple, tons and tons of research on having, one cigar a day, or having the average smoker isn't like us where we're going to have 1 cigar a day, right? But the average smoker might have, 1, 2, 3 cigars a week. They said it basically does nil to your health. Doesn't do anything, right? Whereas cigarettes are, if you're a cigarette smoker, they called it your hazard ratio, which is like if your baseline is 1, the ratio is like 2.5 if you smoke cigarettes. If you smoke cigars, it's like 1.01. There's like nothing risky about it. So, to go from cigarettes to cigars like you had, do you remember the first cigar that you had? Like, do you remember who gave it to you, or did you just, pick one up? And was it immediately quit cigarettes right into cigars, or how was that transition?
It pretty much was. Really? And my first cigar, it was probably a Fuente. And I want to. I think it was probably just like that, the normal line, like the Rothschild.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think it was probably one of those. Or it might have been one of the Hemingway lines, but I'm pretty sure it was a Fuente.
That's pretty funny because we had Ruben Stutter on the podcast, obviously. Huge time singer, American Idol. But when he won American Idol, that night he had his first cigar ever, and it was Arturo Fuente. I couldn't remember if it was a Hemingway or a
I think it was Hemingway.
I think it was a Hemingway, and he didn't actually like it. He was like, "Oh, it's disgusting," and his boy was like, "Nah, bro. Like, this is top of the line cigars. You're gonna smoke it again tomorrow, and you're gonna try it." So it's pretty funny coincidence. Your first cigar, you're a singer in a band. Arturo Fuente.
Yeah, and going to the cigarette thing. I mean, there's plenty of singers that smoke and cigarettes, whatever. But it's tough singing and running around, and you're, especially with cigarettes, affects your lungs so much, where cigars, not to that same level at all.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Right, because you don't inhale cigars, you just puff on cigars. So you said you brought a couple cigars out that were some of your favorites. So let's get into those. So your first one was an Arturo Fuente. So now what's in your little? I see you have a Tupperware.
This is my little. I have a Adu inside. Is kind of like, it's a smaller one. That's kind of what I use. But I do have this guy that I bring with me around if I'm going somewhere, if I'm traveling. I have a little Tupperware. It's just got some Bovita packs in it, and I usually keep like a little bit of cedar.
Great. It's perfect. We've done a video on that, on like, what do you do if you don't have a humidor? Yeah. Tupperware.
It works really well.
If anything, it might even work better because there's a gasket seal around it.
So some of the awesome stuff I have, I had this one, Year of the Tiger, Davidoff.
Yes.
Absolutely. Super good, very pricey, but it is pretty damn good. Here's a Fuente, Eye of the Shark.
Yes, that was wasn't that Cigar of the Year?
Yes,
a couple years
18,
ago.
I think.
18, yes.
Damn good. On the Cuban side, I have some Limitadas. I have this Monte Cristo 2019 edition Limitada. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yeah, you got some good stuff in that Tupperware, man. And that's the travel one? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I made sure I put these in here. These are usually in my humidor, but I put them in here because I knew I wanted to show you guys.
I was going to say, I see you, big boy, bringing out the big guns on the travel case. Right?
Big energy on the road.
This is just my travel case. I mean, I got the other one over there.
Usually what's in here, and I'll show you guys what I usually have for my daily smokes, but I'm super big fan of Nick Melillo Charter Oak line, so that's pretty much my daily smoke. This is a Cohiba 2014 Robusto Supremos.
Yep.
Big daddy cigar. It's hard to find these anymore. And then this is a 2018 Limitada H. Upman.
Nice.
So those are my like high quality like Cuban. And then this one's awesome. So Fuente Breva. And you both are like, why is that?
I can't. I couldn't see it because of the cellophane.
You can't see it? So you know what a Fuente Breva is?
Yeah, I couldn't see it because of the cellophane.
I still don't know what that is.
It's just crazy. their little, normal line that it's very, very cheap. And the reason why this cigar is so important to me is my mother actually gave this to me during my son's baby shower before he was born. So I kept this with me. Absolutely. And then maybe one day when he wants to have a cigar with me, I can give him this and be like,
there you go.
Mom gave him, so that's why it's not an expensive cigar. It's a really cheap cigar, but it's really important to me.
That's like that's like Padron has their 1000 series where they have like the 5000, 7000. That's like the same. Like, because Padron has their 1926 or 64, all those, the higher ones, where Fuente has their higher ends, and then their cheaper one that they had to come out with because nobody wanted to spend $20 a stick. They came out with those. Yeah,
that's why cigars are fucking cool, man. Because like you said, they're like little personal relics. Your mom gave you that for your son's baby shower, right?
And she hates cigars, tobacco, but she did it because for me, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
she was
of course.
And imagine the day when your son is ready to smoke a cigar. You whip out the cigar when he was born. You can't do that cigarette. Your mom gives you a pack of Virginia Slims. You ain't doing that. Come on, son.
No. I don't know. They won't keep that long.
And that's another good point. Is you can't keep cigarettes. You can't. Like, I had a cigar in my humidor that I held for 3-4 years. I remember buying it was a Fuente Opus X. It was a 2014 BBMF. I don't know if you've heard. It's the really funky one.
I've had the Opus X. I don't know what's the BBMF.
So the BBMF is, I don't know if you've seen it, but it stands for Big Bad Motherfucker is what it stands for, and it's a very unique shape. It's got a the head is kind of it's tapered on both sides. It's fatter towards the foot. And then it comes down to a taper on the foot, and it's got a little spot where you light. And the head, it's tapered towards the head, and then it's unfinished. He'll pull it up for you. Very, very, like, it's one of Opus X. It's one of the Fuentes, the top of their cigars.
It looks like that.
Looks like that.
Is it just, it's short?
No. So
it's long. Okay.
It's like a Toro almost.
Well, that's the top. What
Okay.
is the? Do you have the whole thing?
No, that's just the top because that's how you.
Okay, so
I get it,
like this.
yeah.
Here
Here you go. He's got it right here.
I've had an Opus X and I've had
That's what it looks like.
wow.
Yeah.
And I had saved it for, like you had mentioned, where you got that one. You're going to save it for when he gets older and he wants to have a cigar. Here, try this one.
Yep.
I got that cigar and I saved it and I smoked it on my wedding day. And it was. I mean, it's a $200 cigar here in New York because we have 75% going to 80-something% tax.
Jesus.
95.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
They're proposing 95 tax in New York.
So I had that and I saved it, and it's like now next time I smoke that cigar, I'm gonna be like the last time I had this cigar was on my wedding day, and it's
that's cool.
You can't say that about cigarettes or anything else. Like, oh yeah, the last time I got high was on my wedding. Like, it doesn't have the same. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have the same.
Yeah.
There's no effect to it.
Yeah.
And it was such a important cigar for Justin. He was smoking it, and I was like, bro, I usually don't do this, but let me get a couple puffs of that bad boy. Let me try that thing too for you.
It was good.
It was crazy.
It was good. Took a little bit to get going because the foot was kind of like tapered, so you had to wait for it to open up.
Yeah.
But you want to talk about a cigar that was chewy, that almost tasted like smoked meat?
That one.
That cigar. Almost tasted like smoked meat. It was unbelievable.
That was the first thing I picked up. I was like,
it was great.
He had this huge bonfire, like these giant logs. And I felt like I was smoking one of the logs, like with cooked meat on it. And I was like, bro, this is like a
I wonder if that's from the Dominican tobacco. I wonder if that's a thing.
Yeah, I
don't know too much about the different.
Well, Fuentes.
I know with Nicaraguan you get that more spicy stuff, but with the Dominican, I don't know if that's a thing from the Dominican tobacco.
That's a good question because Fuentes are important in the cigar community or popular because they were the first all Dominican Puro cigars, so that's why Opus X's are so popular.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not sure if the aging process is different or how they did it differently. But yeah, it's definitely
I don't know.
Dominican
but
Republic.
It was fucking delicious.
And I don't know why I always use Virginia Slims as reference of cigars. I always thought I just thought maybe they were funny looking in high school, like because they were so skinny and people just look kind of funny. I don't know.
Yeah.
I doubt you smoked Virginia Slims, but I always
I didn't know.
It was just always like a funny reference, and people who smoke cigarettes they always get that reference and kind of laugh. So
that's funny.
That's usually my go-to. Why I say Virginia Slims.
Virginia Slims.
Yeah, because they're like little like really like they look like twigs.
No, I know. I used
the Capris. Remember the Capri cigarettes?
Oh,
yeah,
God,
or remember the Al Capones? Remember those?
Oh yeah, Al Capones.
I used to smoke. It's funny because when I was in college and you're like, you're drunk at a party and you're like, hey, I want to smoke. I didn't smoke cigarettes, right? Because I never smoked cigarettes. I always
good for you
smoked cigars, but this was before I got into premium cigars, right? Towards the latter part of my college career, I got into premium cigars, and I was that, douchebag sitting on his balcony watching all the drunk kids smoking a cigar.
You were that guy.
And all the kids looking up like, who does this fucking guy think he is, right? He's smoking a cigar, and he's not drinking with us? Like,
drunk and be like, who's this fucking uppity motherfucker
who's this pretentious bastard smoking a cigar, right? But I remember, like, when you're out and about and, you're smoking the Al Capones, and I would smoke them like cigarettes.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't inhale them. You would just... Because I remember, I think that the Al Capones were... It was basically tobacco with a filter on it.
Did you ever hear of cloves? You ever remember?
Oh yeah, of course.
I would.
I never liked them.
Yeah,
I never liked them.
Those were one of the things I smoked in high school, or in college.
It was like cigarellos. It was a filtered cigarello, is what it was. So it didn't have all the crap, but it was like, but it wasn't really a cigar. It's the pencil shaving tobacco. Like it's not really.
Do you smoke cigars? Like, do you have like cigar smoking buddies, or do you like get with a couple guys who you always smoke cigars with?
There's not. I really don't have many people there. There's a cigar meetup I sometimes go to with some guys, but that's like once a month. And then at my cigar lounge over here, which is called Lone Wolf Cigar.
Okay.
Cigar Lounge, awesome spot.
I'm gonna write that down because we're gonna try to get the
Lone Wolf Cigar Lounge.
Shout out to Lone Wolf.
Shout out to Lone Wolf. I'm gonna write them down. I'm gonna try to get the blueprints in there so you can buy them.
They're right over here. I don't know. I guess technically they're Santa Monica.
Lone Wolf.
Let me make sure.
Cigar Lounge.
Lone Wolf.
Yeah, I'm going to write it down,
Great people.
and then we'll send them the blueprints so that maybe they purchase some boxes, and then you'll have a spot to buy blueprints.
Yeah,
technically Los Angeles, but they're right over here. Great spot. Shout out to David, who manages everything. He's always been super nice, and they have an amazing selection, and that's where I'll go and pick up a lot of my more premium sticks. And then I will order cigars from JR Cigars. I've done that. I have done that a couple times, and they've been great, and their service is good. And they're usually throwing at me 30% off and all kinds of stuff quite a bit. So
You can't beat like online retailers because, like, you know, you're in California. I was just looking up on my phone. California tobacco tax 62%. So you know that's not taken lightly. So like when you order JR cigars, and I think they're in Pennsylvania, there's 0% tax.
Yep.
Tobacco tax. You know, it's hard not to buy cigars from there when you can, you know, save a bunch of money by getting some of the cigars. You like.
I mean, I like the Charter Oak line, like I was saying from Nick Melillo and Foundation Cigars.
Yes.
And
great brand. Great stick.
Great brand.
Yes.
And I mean, even this, my kind of like go-to cigar lately is their the Habano Torpedo that they put out.
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And they're only doing boxes of this one in 50. So it's a 50 count box. Ooh. And, you know, by the time I use my, you know, promo code I get from JR and I, you know, get the 50 count box, I mean, the cigars end up being, you know, $4 something a stick. Whereas, you know, if you go to a cigar, if you go try to pick them up at a cigar lounge or anything, you know, it's like $11. Yeah. You're basically getting them half off if you go through the, you know.
How can you compete with that?
You can't beat that.
That's why, you know, it sucks. There's these large tobacco taxes for cigars because it really hurts the mom and pop shops. You know, we always reference it. We had this guy, Joshua Herbersky, who is the head of relations for the PCA, for the Premium Cigar Association. We had him on maybe a couple of years ago. And there's just one fact that always stuck out with us, that the total amount of cigar sales within tobacco in itself is 0.5%.
Yeah, if you look at all of the
I always
tobacco,
back it up. I always rely on Justin to remember because he's the numbers guy.
If you look at all the tobacco that's sold in America, premium cigars, so what we smoke and love, what we get from, only accounts for less than 0.5% of all tobacco sold in America.
How wild,
right?
Crazy.
So then you think, well, you know, so why does the FDA and all these big government agencies want to go after cigars and try to tax cigars? Like for instance, when we did an episode about the cigar tax, they're trying to push cigar tax in New York, and in California is 65%, New York 75%, they're going to go to 85%, and all these other places they're trying to really tax cigars. Meanwhile, the weed tax is 13%.
Yeah, crazy.
And I go, so cigars only account for 0.5%, less than 0.5% of all tobacco in America, and you want to tax it at such a high number. Meanwhile, cigarettes account for 99.5%, and you don't tax it as much. I go, if you really want to make money off a tax, raise their tax by 3% and leave us alone. You'll make 10 times more money off of the tax then. But
it is what it is.
Have you ever seen that? This is kind of a bad meme, but have you ever seen that meme where it's like, you know, before this kind of like war, obviously cigarettes and stuff, you know, there's a lot of bad stuff, but there's, you know, the war on tobacco and the obesity rate.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen that meme where it's like the war on tobacco and then the obesity rate just like skyrockets? You ever seen that? It's, you know, obviously
we talk about that a lot.
It's a bad joke, but it's like,
it's
true, you know,
it's
like,
it is a joke because it's like, you know, they care so much about obesity and tobacco, but they care more about tobacco statistically than really obesity.
Yeah, and then you go to look at every ad that's on TV is some sort of fast food chain, right?
Yeah.
They talk about this obesity and they want to care about, you know, they care about, quote unquote, care about obesity. And it's like, meanwhile, I can go and get a Big Mac, large fries, and a large Coke for $7 from.
I wish it was $7.
And get it instantly like that, and it's all over every corner you see a fast food station. I go, why don't you tax the shit out of that?
Mm-hmm.
Guarantee make that $20 and making it yourself
they did at one
$3.
I don't know if it was in California too, but I remember in New York they were doing a soda tax. They were trying to tax like sugary drinks.
Oh, Bloomberg was trying to do that, right?
Oh, you want to get me going? We'll talk about sugar. How sugar is the most addictive drug on the planet.
You know, definitely. I think you know, this country was founded on sugar, caffeine, you know, the coffee bean and tobacco.
Yeah,
and really,
100%.
And sugar is probably the most harmful out of the three. Yeah, in my opinion, I think sugar is probably the most addictive and the most harmful out of the three.
Easily.
Yeah.
But you don't see them.
Especially the processed stuff. If you get it from like the natural, like in fruit, in honey.
Right.
You know, but yeah, the process is just, you know.
Yeah.
Crap.
So I should edit my statement. The processed sugar, I think it's glucose as opposed to sucrose. Sucrose is, I think, the one. Now, don't quote me. I'm not a,
don't get canceled.
I'm not a dietitian or anything like that.
It's the fake sugar.
But yes, the fake sugar. Right. You get honey, you get fruits, you get all the sugar. That's natural sugar.
You gotta say the right shit, bro.
Right.
I know, you gotta say the right shit. I might get fucking canceled here, okay?
Yeah, say the right shit.
Watch out.
Okay.
Watch out.
No, this canceling. See, the canceling stuff has to stop. It's gotta, especially, it has to end, because even in the music industry, it's
crazy,
like,
bro.
There's so many musicians that are all on board with like this cancel culture, and it's just like the bastion of free speech. In what I kind of consider, I felt like musicians were always supposed to be on the side of like free speech, and say whatever, fuck the man and all that kind of stuff. But they seem to be very wimpish these days. What the hell's going on?
Bro. Yeah, like what? I
don't know what's going on.
And I don't understand. Like, whatever happened to sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me? Remember that old adage they used to tell you in elementary school? What happened? Like, it's just just words. If somebody wants to scream and yell at me and call me a fucking this, that, and the next thing, okay, like,
bro,
in one ear and out the other. Like, it doesn't matter.
George Carlin, in one of his, I think it was one of his stand-ups, he talked about how political correctness is fascism pretending to be manners. And if you look up who came up with the term political correctness and all this stuff, it was Mao. And that motherfucker murdered a lot of people.
That motherfucker murdered a hell amount of people.
A lot of his own people.
Bro.
Of his own people. And so he came up with that term, political correctness. And so everyone should be very mindful when we're that's okay. You know what I mean?
And what's his name said, somebody else, another comedian said something about, he goes, it's not a crime to be offended. He goes, just because you're offended doesn't mean anything. I don't care. Be offended. Like,
100%.
There's nothing wrong with being offended. Like, I don't care if I say something that offends you. Like,
people have been offended their whole since human existence. Why is it so important now? Like,
and somebody else had said something to me too. They go, if somebody says something to you and you're offended by it,
that's your own problem.
That's your own. The only reason that you get offended by that is because it's probably true, and you take it take it as truth.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody called me, they said, "Oh, you're I don't know, you're racist," or I'm German. So if they said you're a Nazi, right? They go, "Oh, you're a fucking
Nazi, bro."
I'm not offended by it because I know I'm not a Nazi. I know I'm not racist, so it doesn't offend me,
bro.
Yeah. But if somebody called me a Nazi and I'm like, "You can't call me that," probably because I'm a Nazi. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't. It doesn't. In
order to think, you have to risk being offensive. Because if I don't know you and I'm having a conversation with you, I'm going to come at you with different things that I think that might offend you. But we're not even going to be able to have a conversation.
Yes.
And communicate if we say something that
who said that? Jordan Peterson said that, I believe.
Love that guy, man.
He said that during an interview.
Exactly right.
You know what?
Exactly
right. Some lady was interviewing him, and she was saying that, and he said, "Well, look at right now. You're certainly risking offending me by asking me all these questions."
Awesome, man.
He's the man.
And she like shut down. She had nothing to say about that. And he goes, "Yeah, like, you have to risk offending somebody to have any sort of critical thought or rational thought." Mm-hmm. It's just words, like, and like I said, if somebody says something to me, or somebody says something to you, it's up to you whether or not you let it penetrate your skin, whether or not you let it bother you. It's on you.
Mm-hmm. It's everyone. Everyone. It seems today where we live in, it gets glorified to be negative, to be a victim. Like, if anyone stands out against the grain or has their own different opinion, it's like, oh, don't listen to that guy because he doesn't believe in what we believe in. And speaking of Jordan Peterson, like, in Canada right now, his license, I think he's a doctor of a couple different things, but
psychologist,
right?
And
his license is like at jeopardy now because the Canadians like think he's like so, like he's some kind of dictator with the way he thinks and the stuff that he puts out. And he has to like go. I was listening on Joe Rogan the other day, and he has to like supposedly go through these classes to listen to how not to offend people, not verbatim, but like offend people and express his own opinions. And I'm like, really?
It doesn't make any sense, man.
Most of the time I'm like, bro, this guy is speaking factual, like not my own personal beliefs. Like, it just seems logical. Like, A and B, one person one, two person two. It's a conversation. They make sense to have this kind of logical conversation.
Yeah.
And like you talk to people and you give them your opinion, and then they have nothing to say or nothing to rebuttal, and it's like, well, you're wrong. I don't believe it. I don't have to talk to you. you're just an idiot. You're racist. You're this. You're that. Yep. Like I don't want to.
Yeah, that's the worst thing is that when you have a different opinion from somebody else, and just because they don't feel the same way, they instantly think that you are like a bad person. It's like no, we're different people. Even like we're not the same person. It's okay to have different beliefs. Like that's what's great about this country is that you can have different opinions and different beliefs. And just because one person has one belief and one person has another. Now, granted, not like I have a belief that I'm going to kill people. Like you can't. Obviously, that's a bad belief. But you get what I'm saying? Where you can have different beliefs. It doesn't make either person. We can argue. Yeah, it doesn't make either person bad, right? Like you may believe one thing, I may believe another. As long as you treat everybody with respect and treat them, as a good person. Yeah, because what difference does it make?
I was watching something with you. You were in an interview with somebody, and you were kind of saying, you have your own personal values and thoughts, but like you're like, total. What is it? Total. I can never say that fucking word.
Totalitarianism.
Yeah, that fucking whatever that word is. It's like that's bad. Like regardless, that's a bad thing. Like you should be able to have your own thoughts. Don't push it on other people. But like, just be yourself and be your own person. You shouldn't be forcing things down people's throats.
Yeah. Well, I feel like in school, we're taught the horrors of fascism and Nazism, and that's good. We need to learn how horrible all that stuff was, but we're not really taught the other side of communism and stuff. And I think Peterson has brought this up a couple times that. Even in colleges in this country, it's totally okay to walk around with a hammer and sickle or Che Guevara on your shirt, and these are mass murdering ideologies. The hammer and sickle is just as both the swastika and the hammer and sickle should both be those ideologies need to be driven out of public discourse. But we seem to have an issue here where it's totally okay to be like. I'm a communist. Like people say that shit. It's like, bro, that's a mass murdering ideology that murdered millions and millions and millions of people. So I don't know. I feel like it's not really taught. It needs to be taught. And maybe it had. I was born in '89, so that's when the Soviet Union fell. Mm-hmm. And we're kind of like, probably then it was like, oh, it's over. We don't have to worry about communism anymore. But now we got balloons flying around from communist China, and it's like, here we are again.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's the same. It's the same thing like with socialism. Is you go to a lot of people that I've talked to about socialism. They say, oh, well, I'm an advocate of socialism, and then I would ask them. I said, okay, well, like, so let me get this straight. So if you want to go to work, right? Let's say you make, I don't know, let's say you make $100,000 a year, okay. So you're telling me that the person that makes $100,000 a year and the person that makes $0 a year, the person that makes 100 should split it with the person that makes 0, regardless of how much work they did. And they said, "Well, no, that's not fair." I said, "Well, that's socialism. That's what socialism is. Like
everyone gets."
And then I said, "Okay, so do you trust our government? Do you think that the government should have more control over what we do in our everyday lives?" And they go, "No, that's a bad thing." I said, "Well, that's what socialism is." Said, so you're an advocate. You say you're an advocate of socialism, confused. But then you're against big government. You say you're an advocate of socialism, but then you're against, working for what you have, and not get. And then if somebody that doesn't work gets half of what, it doesn't make sense. I go, you're conflicting ideologies. So I don't really think that what socialism is. I think you're just trying to jump onto a bandwagon because you think that this is the trendy thing to do, and I don't want to get canceled, right? So it doesn't make sense in my eyes, right?
People, especially younger people, they throw around the word equality a lot. Equality, and we need to, even an even more dangerous word has been shown up, or dangerous phrase has been shown up: equality of outcome, equality, and they use the term equity. A lot of these, professors, equity. Anyway, it would to make everyone. It's good that we're not. Some people are going to work harder than others. Some people are going to be better at something than others. I'm sorry we live in the real world where, we're not all equal. We don't all have, and I think I forget, one of the founding fathers said, if everyone is equal, then you're not free. And if you are free, then we're not going to be equal. Right? Because if everyone's free to do as they want, some people are going to sit on the couch all day and smoke pot. And like some people are going to just, especially here in LA, some people, we have we spend a lot of money on, homeless people and stuff like that. And I feel for those people, and I feel bad for the what the city has kind of been turning into lately. But some people just want to get drunk all day or shoot heroin or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, some people are going to work harder than others. Some people are going to be better at stuff than others.
It's an interesting, points that we're talking about because, you obviously have strong values and beliefs, and you're out in LA, you're in the entertainment world, the music world, where it's kind of one-sided from a lot of the things that we understand and see. So it's like interesting to hear someone
wasn't always that way.
Yeah,
I know.
So my question is like, how did you get into that mindset, or kind of go against the grain, or develop your own way of thinking?
Well, he's a Texan, that's why.
Well,
Presidents have been murdered where I'm from. You know what I mean? So we have a very big distrust of the government. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Not that the government did that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying there's a lot of questions.
No doubt.
That still are to be answered.
No doubt.
That we haven't had answered. But not just that. A book I would recommend is this guy, Andrew Breitbart, wrote a book called Righteous Indignation. It's a really good book. Okay. And if you just read chapter 6, he kind of lays out a lot of he grew up here, and he kind of lays out a lot of, what kind of happened in Hollywood. He started Breitbart News, if you guys follow Breitbart News. No.
What's the book? What's the book called?
Righteous Indignation.
Righteous Indignation.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I was raised around, very, I would say even more so like libertarian kind of stuff, but just a good, healthy distrust of the government, no matter who's in charge. And, I also, I'm a big patriot too. I think the United States.
Hence the American flag in the background.
It's the American flag.
Yeah, that's it.
So, yeah.
I mean, you can't see it, but we got an American flag over. Actually, you could probably see it this way if we go. There you go. We got the American flag in the back of the.
Best country in the world, and especially nowadays, everyone just kind of wants to like critique and nitpick and say how horrible we are, and we're terrible. And
so where was like the cutoff? Like you said you had one set of mind of thinking or following. Where was like the breaking point where you're like, nah, I think I'm kind of gonna go this way or think more like this. Like, what was that like?
I just kind of got. I don't feel like I've changed all that much because I have always had that free speech. I've always believed in that, and I feel like a lot of the culture has changed on me because they're all saying, no, we're not into that anymore. I'm like, what's happened? I don't feel like I've changed. I've always believed those things. I've always found those are very, very important things.
Yeah, because punk rock's like, punk That's rock and stuff like that. It's like fuck the man, like, going against this, like, what is it, System of a Down, right? All those guys.
Look at Rage Against the Machine.
Rage Against the Machine is now, that song, like, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, is now like, please tell me what to do.
That's
I'll do
crazy.
whatever you want me.
Yes. And so I think it's a good point. You said that, you've had these beliefs, and I applaud you that you haven't changed with the changing world, because shit is in the last 5, 6, 7 years, it's changed quite a bit to go to one side. And if you're not on that one side, fuck you, we're going to cancel you, we're going to silence you, and this, that, and the next. So I applaud you to say, no, this is who I am. I'm not going to, because we actually talked about it, is you got these people that they say that these are my values, but then the values change with the seasons. Well, depending on what the latest trend is.
You see it all the time.
I'm going to hop on that trend.
Absolutely.
I said, well, is it really a value then? Is it a core value that, like, for instance, being a Christian, right? Like, we're both Christians.
Yep.
If being a Christian is a core value, that I'm a Christian, this is what I believe until the day I die.
Yeah.
That is not going to change regardless of what my outside environment is changing. This is a core belief that I believe in, and that's not going to change. But I feel like some people say they have these core values, But then whatever the latest, celebrity says, oh, I believe in this. Oh, I'm going to believe that too because this person said it. It's like, well, is it really a core value then if it constantly changes?
Yeah.
Yes, it's men standing for something. And what's happened now, men and women standing for something. And what's happened now is if you have a personal belief, that means you're excluding other people's personal beliefs because you're not open to yourself having new beliefs. Therefore, you're being, you're not being very open.
Mm-hmm.
And so even standing for anything such as your faith or, I'm a Christian too, but I'll have discussions with everybody. But if you stand for nothing, you're just a squishy little blob that's, if you don't stand for anything,
right.
I don't know. But a lot of people right now, that kind of seems what, especially in Hollywood, they push for is like, you should be open and you should try anything and you shouldn't stand for anything because then you're excluding other ideas. And it's like, I don't know.
And I feel like what people don't understand is that just because, like, perfect instance with the religion, right? Just because we're Christian and we believe in Christianity doesn't mean that if somebody wants to believe in, if somebody's Jewish or Muslim, doesn't mean that we say you can't believe in that.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't think. They think that you have to be open and you have to believe I don't have to believe what you can believe whatever you want.
Right.
But this is what I believe. And just because I believe this doesn't mean that I'm not open to the fact that you can believe whatever you want.
And I felt like, at least the way I grew up, it always used to be like that. Like, my best friends growing up were Muslim, Puerto Rican, and fucking black.
My best man at my wedding is Jewish.
My 3 best friends, all different religions, backgrounds, and I never thought anything different. I just thought, these are my friends. They would come in my family. We'd go away on vacations, and that was it. Like, it was never like, oh, he's Muslim, he's black, he's this, he's that. It's like, I felt like ever since I became a real adult, since I started adulting, life has gotten so much more complicated. I'm like, start questioning everything. You're like, what the fuck's going on?
Can we just go back to being kids? Can we just be kids for the rest of our life?
That's why you gotta smoke cigars, man. Because sometimes your shit gets too stressful, and you're like, bro, I just need a fucking cigar.
And that's a great thing. Is that whole we were talking about where you have to be open, right? And you if you believe this thing and you're not open to that thing, that whole ideology doesn't exist in the cigar world. You go to a cigar lounge, it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what you believe in, how tall you are, how skinny you are, how fat. It does not matter. In a cigar lounge, you all sit down and you all have a good conversation. And that's the beautiful thing about cigars. You can't really get that in many other communities.
You won't get that some, not all bars, but especially, that's what I mean when I say cigars, obviously a good drink is great to have with a cigar, but, we're not getting loaded, when we have a cigar. We're able to have, discussions. Mm-hmm. When alcohol's involved, it might get a little more heated. But,
a little bit.
Yeah, you can say that. That's for damn sure.
But with just cigars, I feel like it's very therapeutic, and people are able to sit down in a room and have meaningful discussions and talk about dangerous ideas. Yeah.
Yes. All right. So we're gonna lighten up the question here. I found something on the internet, right?
Oh boy.
It's gonna be funny. But I don't know if you ever Googled your name and you're on Urban Dictionary. Have you ever seen your name on Urban Dictionary? Do you know what Urban Dictionary is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, this is great, dude. Prep yourself for this.
I think this is like when everyone
super horrible or something.
No.
This is
fucking awesome.
This is great.
I was like, I'm sorry, I don't care how raunchy this is. I gotta ask him.
He told me about this before. I said, oh my god, this is.
So Urban Dictionary, for the people who don't know, it's like whatever, if slang terms or it gives you a description of like what certain terms mean, but. This isn't a term. This is Mason Musso, an Urban Dictionary. You ready for this?
This is This is the definition of your name on Urban Dictionary.
This is one of 3, but this is from January 9th, 2010. Ready? Mason Musso. Sex god will make you orgasm with one look. It is not possible to keep it in your pants when he's around. The only thing you can think about when he's around is his 125-inch penis and his rough sex hair. What the hell is that?
That's funny.
That's fucking amazing. I was Googling some shit last week, and I was like, Urban Dictionary. I was like, the fuck does this mean? Like, where did this come from?
Dude,
whoever wrote that was very kind.
Yeah. I mean, shit, man. 125 inches. God bless, bro.
Yeah.
I don't know how you found that.
It's amazing how I get around. I don't know.
There you go.
Crazy.
Mason's like, whoever wrote that, I mean, Everything they wrote about me is true.
Yeah, this is
very kind.
And this is by, and it says by Sexy Secret Admirer. But there was a few of them, but this was like the best one. I was like, I don't care how he feels. I got to bring it up and ask him,
That's hilarious.
So that's not your backup account,
Thank you
right?
for that.
That's not your backup email, Sexy Secret Admirer?
Yeah, I wrote that.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
You don't know if it's like a burner Twitter account where you're beefing yourself up. But yeah, if you need a little boost of confidence, just know someone.
128 inches.
I got a great publicist.
120. What is that? 10 feet,
bro? That's like me and you put together.
Yeah.
Shit.
God, that's hilarious. That is great.
But I did want to ask you, going back to your touring days, the metro station days. You have any good like top 3 like stories or interactions or something crazy that happened? You're like, wow, this is one of my favorite stories to ever tell people. Do people ever ask you that?
Yeah, I've had a couple like that. I guess one of my favorite stories was I got to go to the island of Malta for it was like an MTV thing, and the island of Malta apparently it was
where is that? Where's the island?
Apparently they found it's right above Africa, I think, right below Italy, and apparently it was like a place where everyone from like the Knights Templars hid some stuff there, like Indiana Jones style. You know what I mean? Like it was been like a very contested kind of, and like apparently St. Peter landed there at some point.
Wow.
All kinds of stuff like that. We played an MTV thing for like 80,000 people, and it was like such an amazing experience. But the craziest, what I thought was crazy, because I was only 19 at the time, so I couldn't legally drink until I got to Europe, obviously. So then I was like having a field day. But when we got to the island of Malta, the drinking age was 16. So we were like, what the? It was like a prom gone, or a homecoming dance gone horribly wrong. It was the craziest thing you've ever seen, because they allow people to drink so young at that age. And so, I was like 19. I was like, this is what's the thing from Pinocchio where they all go to they all go to the place where all the kids can smoke cigars and drink.
Oh my!
Is it like it's like Rumspringa?
So it was crazy. Anyway, I always remember that because it was like we played this huge, massive show and it was badass. And then we go out in the town and it's just like 16-year-olds, everyone's just drinking. I just thought it was such a crazy.
That's wild. That's the youngest drinking age I've ever heard.
Yeah,
wow. It's really young, right? Yeah,
that's like how it is in Germany. In Germany,
it's pretty young, right?
Yeah, so technically the drinking age, and this is what I love about Germany, is that the drinking age is 18, or I don't know if it's changed at this time, but it's 18. However, there's an asterisk behind it, because if you go out with your parents and you're at a dinner and you're 14 or 15. You can order a drink, and the servers will go to your parents and kind of give them a look, and the parents will give them a nod and say, okay, yeah. So if you're with adults, you can really drink at whatever age. They'll give it to the parent, and then the parent can give it to the kid, and then it's totally fine. So you got kids but that's how they kind of introduce them into alcohol. But yeah, I can't imagine.
It's probably a good thing, because kind of going back to the beginning of our conversation, it's funny because going to the Garden of Eden, if you tell someone, don't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, the first thing they're going to think about is they're going to, especially a kid.
Yeah.
Especially a kid. So I think if you introduce it, I think over here in the States, allowing people to drink at 21, you'd probably want to find ways of lowering it gradually, because, you don't want to just be like, all 18-year-olds can drink alcohol.
Yes.
But I think, we maybe we wait too long, and then that's why there's such a huge binge drinking culture, where I think in parts of Europe, you're introduced to it earlier and kind of taught to respect alcohol.
Right. Because I feel like, I was always an advocate of, how can somebody be 18 years old, go and fight for your country and kill the enemy for your country, but you can't drink a beer?
Yeah. No, I agree. That's
either one comes down or the other one comes up. I don't understand, because granted, we're in a different era where I personally, I don't think that 18-year-olds now in this country are mature enough that they should be allowed to drink alcohol.
Yep.
Yeah.
So on the same token, I don't think they're mature enough to go into the armed forces, right? Because like maybe 30, 40 years ago,
it was like expected to go into the military.
You know, at 18, you were really an adult. But have you seen the kids nowadays? Like 18, you're not an adult. You know, like, at least what I see. So
no, not if you believe in safe spaces. Probably don't want to go into the
not up in here.
Probably don't want to go to the military.
Not up in here.
I'm sorry. He called me a baby. I need my say. Yeah. Could you imagine being in the military and you go to your sergeant?
You fucking little cunt! You can't do shit.
Where's my safe space? Do I have a safe space now? Could you imagine saying that in the military?
I don't know, because I hear some of the stuff going on in the military that isn't good. They're allowing some of this.
No, you're right.
Well, what's this thing that now they want to
college garbage?
They want to take away sir, and ma'am from like drill sergeants.
God, I don't want to go
like
down
you
this
can't
path,
say
bro.
sir
This
or
is gonna
ma'am
get me
anymore.
So angry. I'm gonna get so angry.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No.
It always goes back to. I always think of this. There's a movie, Coach Carter.
This all comes out of the colleges. This is all coming out of like very intellectual professors that read a lot, and then they come up with these, they're, and then you got like, you have to address kids in school as, cat boy and stuff.
Yeah.
And then it's
Bro, have you seen
one of my friends, his kid they put a litter box in the kid's bathroom because one of the kids identified as a cat or something.
Shut up.
No way.
No way. This is all, yeah.
No.
Oh my.
And this is not being accepting and like nice. This is
that's taken to a whole nother level.
Mental illness.
That's
100% for sure.
Well, that's like what you were going to talk about with Sebastian Maniscalco.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the latest stand up from Sebastian Maniscalco, but he talks about how his kids in like elementary school now, and one of the students in his class is like, I don't know if it's his daughter or I think
it's his son's class.
That's his son's class.
Yeah.
And one of the kids like identifies as like a lion, right? A lion?
They call him Rory.
Yeah, Rory. Great. That's a great name, but not for a lion. But a kid identifies as a lion, and he's talking about, this kid is a fucking lion. This and that. We have to like accept this and that. He's like, so we're at a parent-teacher conference, and he goes over to the guy, and he's like, wow, you hear this guy? There's a kid in this class that identifies as a lion. He's like, yes, isn't that so great? Oh my God. And he's like, all right, I'm not fucking talking to you anymore.
He goes, we got 24 kids in a class and one lion.
Come on, bro.
But it's like, it goes back to, there's, I was saying the movie Coach Carter, basketball movie, right, with Samuel L. Jackson. And in one of the scenes, he goes to the guy and he says, such and such. He goes, sir, you have to do such and such. He goes, don't call me a sir. I'm not a sir. He goes, well, are you a madam? He goes, no, you're not. You are a sir. He goes, everybody here is a sir. I'm a sir. You're all sir. And you'll be addressed as sir. He goes, you're not a madam, so I'm not going to address you as madam.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, it's just this whole.
You're not really helping any, like, especially as a kid, as a child. I have a kid now. The last thing I want to do is like try to nerf the world for him.
Yeah.
Right. And try to help him every little and pick him up, because you're not going to learn anything. You're just going to be like, again, like a squishy blob that doesn't know how to do anything for yourself. Peterson has a really good thing about this where he says, never interrupt a kid when he's skateboarding, because they have to learn to fall down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think right now what culture has been kind of telling people is like, no, you need a safe space. You need, mommy's going to come help you with every single thing. And, that sounds good, I guess, as a kid. You're kind of, the fairy tale of like, the gingerbread house in the woods, Hansel and Gretel.
Mm-hmm.
But inside that mentality of like, oh, I'm going to like do everything for you is like
kind of bizarre.
It's like American Psycho, bro.
Yeah.
When people turn to American Psycho.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Movie.
Like where you keep your mom,
100%.
That's what it is.
Well, it's like there's a guy, Neil deGrasse Tyson, who very, very intelligent astrophysicist, and
I like Neil.
I geek out on him because I love listening to that stuff. And he had talked about the same kind of scenario where he goes, when you have a kid, right, and a kid's playing in a puddle, or he's playing in the mud, or he's like playing with rocks or something.
Yep.
He's doing, and he says, don't do that. You're gonna get your clothes wet. He goes, as soon as you see a kid doing something and then you tell them, no, don't do that, and you pull them away from it, he goes, you're interrupting what he called, it's a science experiment. He goes, you're interrupting an experiment that the kid is having with his reality And he needs to learn, okay, if I play in this puddle, then I'm going to get wet. And if I don't want to get wet, then I won't play in this puddle. But if you interrupt it before he has the chance to learn about whatever the scenario is. Now, granted, there's, certain things, right? If the kid's going to jump off of a balcony, you can't just let them jump off the balcony, right?
Yeah.
But
there's maybe.
No, but there's certain things like if you interrupt and you try to prevent that experiment from happening, then the kid's never going to learn.
It's so,
and he extrapolates it even further. He says, what if that kid, like, he's playing with rocks and he's in the dirt and he's picking up this, he's picking up that, and don't do that, you're going to get dirty, and you prevent him from doing that. He goes, that kid could have turned into like a geologist, or could have turned into a botanist, or that could have been like the catalyst that made the kid
a light bulb go off.
Yeah, a light bulb want to learn about this, but because you prevented it before it could happen. Now the kid's never gonna want to
so bizarre,
be interested in that.
I don't have any kids yet. You got a kid, you just said.
Yeah.
But like, it's so bizarre how people think like it's logical, like it's okay. Like I know people our age all didn't grow up like that. Like my parents were like, go out, get dirty, get hurt, you'll figure it out, this and that.
Yeah.
So it's like when I hear people like coddling their kids like this, yeah, you want to protect your kids, but like you got to let them live and like learn a little bit. It's bizarre.
Yeah, get dirty, get hurt. Like it's okay. That's how you learn, right?
There's another funny meme of like jungle gyms in the 50s, and they're like crazy, like giant metal structure, where you could, really get yourself hurt. And like slowly but surely over time, we've kind of like, padded the ground at the jungle gym. Everything's come down, everything's smaller.
Yeah. We're raising a bunch of squishy blobs is what we're doing.
Yeah.
I think Joe Rogan said it, I usually botch it. Justin always usually fixes it, but Joe Rogan said something like, hard times make great men make easy times make hard time.
Weak
tough
men.
Yeah, tough men. Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
And weak men make hard times.
Exactly. Yes, thank you. And it's so true. Like it's so true, and it's bizarre. This is the world I'm living in. Sometimes it's like the Twilight Zone, man. It's bizarre.
You can see it throughout a lot of history too. I love history. Not an expert by any means, but as you get, something like Rome, they get, very tough men have to establish it. Then they become very wealthy, a lot of corruption, and then the fall, right? And that always, that happens with people too.
History repeats itself for sure, and people should be.
It's cyclical,
People should be looking at history and understanding it, and I feel like a lot of people just don't. We talk about it all the time. People just want to be told what to do and just do what they see. They don't want to actually go out and think for themselves, or if they hear a certain topic or an event, they just believe what they see. They don't want to do their own research. They don't want to understand the history or anything. They just say, "Oh, this guy said it. Oh, then it must be true. Then I believe it too."
We call them sheeple.
Yeah, sheeple.
We call them sheeple. They just want to, okay, tell me what I'm supposed to think. But okay, that's what I'm going to think.
Yeah, even something like achieving goal. The best, and this is another thing from Peterson. The where you find the most joy and like your serotonin is kicking in is in the middle before even achieving a goal or accomplishing something. It's in that work period of like you're working your way there, because once you achieve something or you have the goal, you get that high from it and then it goes away. But the best place to be is right in that zone of failing and figuring it out, but keeping going, and you're striving for something. So it's it's always important to have definitely have goals. You want to achieve goals and stuff, but you want to have new goals and keep making yourself better. That's a good thing.
Like Matt Ryan.
It's a crazy thing to say.
Yeah,
Matt Ryan. He was a quarterback for the Falcons when he lost the Super Bowl, but he said you got to embrace the suck. Like you gotta take it on the chin. You gotta learn from it.
Or like Eric Thomas says, fall in love with the grind. Just fall in love with the grind. And that's why I'm a big advocate of removing these participation awards that they give to all these kids. Like just because you're on the team and just because you're playing doesn't mean you get a participation award. So because what you're actually doing by giving anybody that plays a participation award is you're robbing them of the feeling of actually achieving and earning something, right? If you let's say you're playing a sport, right? I was an athlete, so I always go back to sports. So you're playing a sport. If you make it to, like, let's say you don't make it to the playoffs the first year, okay? You don't deserve a trophy. You didn't make it. You weren't the best team. You weren't the best player.
You're supposed to feel like shit.
You don't deserve a trophy, okay? Now the next season, you work harder, okay? And then you get to the playoffs, but you lose. You don't deserve a trophy. You didn't win.
Mm-hmm.
Next year, you work even harder. Now you make it to the championship game, and you lose. You don't get a championship trophy just for participating. But now, finally, next year, you make it to the and you win the championship. Now, you actually will appreciate winning more because of the fact that you've lost so many times, and you realize how much work you had to put in to actually win something and to earn it. And you'll appreciate it so much more than just okay, here's your participation trophy.
That's a good point. So, like, you obviously had a lot of success early on. Like, how did you, some people, they succeed super early and then they fall off. Obviously, you're still doing what you love. You're passionate for music. How did you kind of keep it at a coast where you had this super successful rate and then you kind of just kept it going? I don't know if you went down or up or, how did you
I definitely had my share of, downfalls and rises, and I'm honestly at this point in my life, right now, not that I'm only 33, I feel I'm talking as if I'm super old or something, but
well,
I'm
when
just
you're
lucky
in the
to be
industry
doing it.
since
I'm
18.
I'm super lucky, very, very grateful, right? Very grateful that I get to do something I love. Not a lot of people get to do that, and I know that. I didn't know it as well as when I was younger, but I know it even more so now, and yeah, very grateful that I get to make music for a living. I mean, that's like, wow. I won the fucking lottery. You know what I mean? So I don't take it for granted. I definitely did when I was younger. I took it for granted.
What were some
but I don't take it for granted now.
What were some of like the obstacles that you faced early on or during your career that you kind of overcame, and you're like, you learn from it. You're like, that was a good fail to learn from, or that was a good obstacle to learn from.
Definitely, like, getting into like partying and stuff was a big thing, for me, where it was like I wasted a lot of time and a lot of money on. Some people can dabble and have fun and have a good time, but I guess for me and my personality and I just always took things too far, So that and ego for me, I've learned to kind of like check my ego and be, try to be humble in an industry where a lot of people aren't humble at all. And surrounding myself with good people, because I definitely feel like there were some great people, but then, at the same time, I feel like I didn't surround myself with, you want people that are going to, help you grow and stuff. And I think when you're young, find a lot of people that, not everyone, but that kind of like just waste your time. As I've gotten older, my time's very valuable. I think another thing with cigars, because they're kind of like timekeepers, one of you guys said it in the podcast or on Instagram. It's like, this is my time. It's very important to me. I'm going to relax. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to have my cigar. So time is very important to me as I've gotten older. And so who I surround myself with, what I'm doing, all those things I take into account. And I try to, do things that are really important with my time.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but there's
when I was younger, I just wanted to get, just
get fucked up and party, make music,
bang 7-gram rocks and finish them like Charlie Sheen.
And it's sad. It really is sad because a lot of young people, I think, do that. It's like you kind of just want to like not remember every day. It's really it's very tragic.
Yeah,
because I think a lot of younger people. When I say younger, I think a lot of people just kind of want to get the day over with or lose their mind, kind of like
forget their day or forget what they're going through.
Forget their day. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. And, another cigar quote, Matthew McConaughey says, he likes cigars. It slows down his biological clock. It kind of stops him in that moment. And it's just one with yourself and you're kind of just hanging out. And, on one hand, I'm kind of glad that cigars aren't as mainstream as they are because they might get a little diluted, but also it's like I do like it because not everyone understands this experience. Not everyone understands what it is to decompress, be one with your thoughts, actually have something to do with just yourself. And if you do want to enjoy with other people, something that you guys can all enjoy and collectively have a good time, a good moment.
Don't lose the bourbon.
No, I can't do that.
So we're coming down to the end. We're about an hour and a half in. And I want to ask you this question. We always like to ask this to our guests, and I feel like it makes you think a little bit too. So if you could smoke a cigar with anybody, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
They got to be cigar smokers, though, right? Because that's like,
well, it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be. I mean,
people said Frank Sinatra. People said Tupac.
That's a good one.
Yeah, they're not really like cigar people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People said my dad, stuff like that.
Yeah,
it could be anybody.
I like. I would. He was a huge cigar smoker, and also Sigmund Freud was a big cigar smoker. I mean, I like philosophy and stuff like that, so I'd love to, and he was on some weird shit for sure.
That'd be a very interesting conversation for sure.
It'd be interesting. And then G.K. Chesterton. Do you know who G.K. Chesterton is?
No, I do not.
He's like he was a big Christian Catholic philosopher kind of guy. If you want to check him out, G.K. Chesterton. He wrote a lot a lot of good stuff.
G.K. Chesterton.
He said we need more cigar smoking saints. If you ever want to check him out.
Amen to that.
That instantly intrigued me.
Amen to that, bro.
He had one of his very insightful things was he talked about, these kind of ideas that we have in the world where we feel like we need to, let's remove these traditions that we see in the world because they're old, and he always kind of related it to if you're walking in a field and you come up to a fence, you see a fence. Well, that fence was built by someone for some reason, right? You may not know who it was. It probably was a long time ago, but that fence is there for a reason. And so you don't want to just start ripping out fences, that, block the wolves, or anything like that. So I always thought that was a cool, especially when you're talking about traditional things, I think, that's important. But yeah, check him out, G.K. Chesterton.
G.K. Chesterton.
And that was a good one.
And probably another like cigar. I like the Stallone and Arnold. I'd love to smoke with those guys.
Catalyst,
for sure.
baby.
Yes.
I saw Arnold. It was right. I guess it was a while ago, maybe like 2 years ago. But he was riding his bike around here in Santa Monica.
Really? Does he look funny riding a bike?
He's smaller than you'd think.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, maybe now.
He's kind of short.
Maybe not back in the 80s and 90s when he was fucking huge.
Yeah.
But he kind of on the screen, Hollywood. So you kind of imagine him as like 8 feet tall, and he's like my height, and that's like, oh, it's like
you're not as big as you look.
Right.
I need to switch gears. I'm going up the hill right now.
Give me a cigar.
He had like one of those serious, it looked like kind of more of a mountain bike.
Got it. Wow.
Thing. But it was cool. It was like, oh, there's Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I know he's a big cigar guy.
Oh yeah. I'd love to smoke with we try. I would love to
would be one of my
Sly would be a good one too.
He did something weird though. So I saw Arnold do something weird where he he coated a cigar in tequila.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah,
that's weird. I don't know about that.
We've tried it on the podcast, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't really see the appeal.
No.
It didn't really do anything for me.
No.
It didn't really, and we actually talked about it. We watched that video and we did a whole conversation about it. But it's like, at least how we did it, we kind of try to emulate what he said, how his experience was. But he tasted tequila for like maybe a minute or two, a couple puffs, and like after that, it was just back to the cigar.
Yeah,
so.
Didn't really do it for me.
No.
Yeah.
Do you ever try to experiment with dipping cigars into alcohol at all?
I don't really ever dip them. I've never really understood why you would, right?
Yeah, I think somebody had told me that it's meant to, I forgot how they said it, but cigars are meant to be, cigars and bourbon or cigars and spirits are meant to be enjoyed, enjoyed as a pairing, but not together. I forgot how they said it some way where it's like, you're meant to have them together, but not together.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They said it more eloquently than that.
I agree with that. I know, some people are fine like smoking and food, but to be honest, if I'm eating, I don't want like cigar smoke in my face. I want to like, eat and then go out, or to a cigar lounge and then, some stuff you want to keep separate.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, maybe that's what they said. They're meant to be enjoyed together, but separately. If that makes sense.
So, it definitely makes sense.
But so this is kind of the end, and we just we want to thank you very much for taking the time.
Guys.
I know
you
have such a busy schedule, so we appreciate you coming on the podcast. And I know you had said that you go down to your local lounge. Sometimes you try to go to these events. You don't really have many people to smoke with, but you got 2 friends now to smoke cigars with. If you ever want to smoke, just hit us up. We'll get on a FaceTime. We'll have a cigar together.
I love that, and I come to New York a lot. My girl is from New York, and her whole family, Connecticut technically, but
Northern New York.
They're Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Yeah, it's
so
very close.
I'm there all the time. So
yeah, so whenever you're over here, if we're over there, we'll get together. We'll have a cigar. Like I said, if you ever need a buddy to smoke with, need buddies to smoke with,
yeah, man,
hit us up.
I
Please.
love that.
Please,
love that.
I would love to. Bridgeport's not far at all.
It always comes up whenever you're searching like something near me, right? And restaurants in Bridgeport come up because it's only 20 miles north. Yeah. But really, they don't realize the map doesn't realize it takes 3 hours to go 20 miles. But.
Yeah,
that's like LA. That's very much like LA. Yeah.
That's it. Because if you're on Long Island, Bridgeport is like a 20-minute not 20-minute, but like a 30-minute ferry. But we're on Long Island, but I live in the county above Long Island now, so Bridgeport's maybe 30 minutes from me.
Yeah, it's closer to you.
But yeah, man, absolutely. If you're in New York, hit us up. We'd love to meet and have a cigar, brother.
Oh yeah,
we appreciate you coming on the podcast as always, and good talking to you and spending some time. Good luck at your show this weekend too.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys again for having me on.
Absolutely, brother. As always, Mason Musso, the man, a cigar. What do we call him? Let's see, cigar rocker, cigar rockstar.
Cigar Rockstar. There you go.
So the Cigar Rockstar. Appreciate you, brother. Cheers.
Thank you, gentlemen. Cheers.